At Emory University, I had the opportunity to create an upper division undergraduate course called Empathy, Sympathy, and Compassion. It was a great course with a lot of extremely bright students. And one of the questions we asked during this class is, what is the difference between empathy, sympathy, and compassion? As difficult as it may be to believe, the relationship between empathy and sympathy is often debated, and people just don't seem to agree about the meaning of these two terms. And here are two sides to a debate about the act of showing care and concern for another. Each side of this debate is an answer to a question. What is a real display of care and concern? Is it empathy or sympathy? On one side of the debate, people assert that empathy is simply the grasping of the experiences of others, while sympathy signifies that one feels deeply for others and is truly concerned for them. On the other side, sympathy is just a surface feeling, while empathy is the real act of showing care and concern for others. Now, if you think that this debate is silly, I agree with you. But I tell you this, check how people talk about these two types of feeling, and I guarantee you that you will see these ways of distinguishing between empathy and sympathy. And this causes confusion. By focusing on the three habits of empathy, however, we are able to completely sidestep this entire debate, because the habit empathy as feeling for is synonymous with sympathy, or showing care and concern for another, coupled with action. So what about compassion? Well, let's break it down. Derived from the Latin, com means with, and passion, or pati, means suffering. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who was never shy about being a complete iconoclast, wondered if compassion, or suffering with others, is really a good practice. After all, when you experience compassion for another, Nietzsche thought, you just brought more suffering into the world. Because before, only the other person was suffering. But then, when you suffered with another and showed compassion, you were suffering too. Ready for a dose of irony? Nietzsche's last conscious act on this earth was an act of compassion. It was January 3rd, 1889, and Nietzsche was walking through the streets, and he saw a horse being whipped violently. He ran over to the horse, wrapped his compassionate arms around it to help it, but then he collapsed himself and experienced a major mental collapse from which he never recovered. The three habits of empathy, focusing on these three habits of empathy, help us to get around the merely conceptual debates about the meanings of sympathy, empathy, and compassion, and instead turn our attention to how we practice these habits during our interactions with others. In the next section, we will return to these three habits of empathy to explain how they all interrelate when they come together in our experience.